A graphic symbol in Flash Professional is a symbol which contains its own timeline, but which is tied to the root timeline. In this lesson, we examine the construction and use of this symbol type. So let's go in and simply create a basic object here. I'm going to create a rectangle and then provide it with a number of properties. So let's create that, and we'll make it more visible by changing the colors. So let's make it orange, and we should give it a border. So I'll select the ink bottle tool and put a little border on that, selecting the border and changing it to red perhaps. So right now we're dealing with a basic shape that's drawn off onto the screen. I'm going to select this shape and go to my Modify menu, and I want to convert this to a symbol. So what type of symbol do I want to convert this to? I want to convert it to a graphic symbol. I'm going to have the registration point of the symbol at the center, and you can always choose any of the corners or sides to also have the actual registration point at. I'm also going to rename it to square. And you can see with this little twirl down menu that we actually have a number of other things that we could deal with if this was a movie clip symbol, but since it isn't, all of these are grayed out. So in actuality, if you're using graphic symbols, they expose this little advanced dialog, but you can't actually do anything with it. So let's hit OK here. All right, so two things just happened. One thing is our actual object that we converted into a graphic symbol has become a graphic symbol instance on our stage. We can see here in the Properties Inspector that we are dealing with a graphic symbol, and it is an instance of square. So square is the name of the symbol itself. From here we can swap with another symbol in the library, and we can also apply basic color effects such as brightness, tint, and there's some advanced and alpha effects that we can use too. So here's brightness, so we can go from very bright to very dark. Here's tint, so we can modify the tinting of this object. We have advanced, so here we can modify the alpha transparency and also the RGB values. And here's alpha just by itself. We can also choose how this element should animate. So this is going to loop once, which pretty means it's going to simply play through. But we could also just say play once or single frame. The default is loop and first is 1. So let's see what this actually means. If I go into my library here, we can see we don't actually have any sort of a play button or anything like that. And that's because there aren't any frames on the timeline except for 1. So there actually is no animation within this item. Since this is an actual graphic symbol here, we can easily click and drag to create many, many instances of these graphic symbols onto our stage. We can also edit these symbol instances by clicking on them and then making adjustments. So maybe I want this one very bright and have this one very dark. And change the alpha transparency of this one, while this one is solid. So you can see that each of these particular instances actually looks quite different right now. But there is only still one symbol in the library that these instances are all derived from. So any instance can have different properties adjusted, and it's not going to affect the overall symbol. However, if I double click on any of these, so let's go into this original one, and maybe I change the fill to this bright green color, and then go back out to the root of my stage, you can see here that since I edited the symbol itself, that all of the instances of that symbol are affected. And we're dealing with graphic symbols here, but this is also used within movie clip symbols and button symbols. So this goes across the board as far as symbol types go. So this has been a quick example of graphic symbols, their properties, and how to use them.